Josh, what's happening, Josh? You the first one in tonight. You all right? I'd like to welcome you specifically to the We Poppin' Son show, the number one father and son talk show in the world, which we do every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and my son, comedian Tymillz, who's my co-host, who will join us shortly, I assume. Russell, 3021, thank you for tapping in with me, man. What's good with you? I'm good, man. I'm good, Josh. I'm good, man. I'm always good. You know what I mean? Because I have a very peaceful life. And when you come from the life that I've come from, your appreciation for things, simple things, is so much greater than somebody who maybe had just a normal everyday existence and always thinking they want things or want experiences that they've never had, and thinking that their life would be better if they, a lot of times, had a more material existence. And I've had a very, very material existence from birth because of being born into an organized crime family. Money was never an issue. Stuff was never an issue. To go tie right there. Thanks for tapping in, IHSNT6. I see you. There go Tymillz right there. Never forget our children in Gaza. They desperately need your support. Absolutely, IHSNT6. Absolutely. Free Gaza. Bless the women and the children and the civilians not involved in any of that conflict that have suffered. Psychotic society that Israel has developed over the last 50 years is a very psychotic society. Extremely psychotic. Extremely. There's nowhere in the world that any normatively operating person would be okay with purposely starving, killing, maiming and murdering civilians in general, children in particular. It's sick. You know, even if everything that they claim they want, I just tried to bring you in, Ty, and didn't. I heard it ring the one time, but nothing. Try it again. So, Ahmed, okay, Ahmed. Peace. What's up, son?
Peace.
So, if you'd like to put something up that people can confirm is legitimately a source of charity for the people in Gaza, because people are full of shit, as you must well be aware of. People are full of shit. Peace, sunny day, 1014. Thanks for tapping in with us. I'm responding to the person, Ahmed, the brother Ahmed, who has the Instagram moniker IHSNT6, and he brought up the Gaza and the people of Gaza and their suffering and so forth, and he suggested that donations be made, and I'm telling them, just put something up there. I'll pin it that people can go to and donate something, $1, 50 cents, whatever. It doesn't matter, you know. Every little bit helps, and then it's just a matter of them actually being able to receive the benefit of that, that charity. Because those psychotic motherfuckers over there are purposely and intentionally, still have been consistently destroying or blocking the people in Gaza from receiving the charity and supplies and so forth they need to sustain what's left of their existence after these psychotic fucking monsters destroyed their land, their home, their families. And like I was going to say, if somehow they were able to, I'm talking about the Israeli government was able to do everything it wanted to do over there and destroy all of the Middle East countries, there's no such thing as Middle East, it's Africa. Destroy all these African nations and then, have everything that they idealize. Does anybody imagine that these people would be people that could live harmoniously once they've destroyed all their enemies, killed all their enemies, killed all their enemies' children? You think that they're going to be suddenly able to adjust to normalcy, to decency, to humanity and humane behavior? No. Once they have destroyed everything outside of them, they would have only themselves to destroy, and that's what they would do. They would start going after people who aren't patriotic enough. You're patriotic, but you're not patriotic enough. Then after they got rid of all the people who they felt weren't patriotic enough, then they would go after all the people who are too sympathetic to the people who are being deemed unpatriotic enough. So they would slowly whittle away until there was only, Netanyahu there. Till there was no one else there, and then it would be, the perfect greater Israel. This is a society of psychopathy. Varying degrees of psychopathy. It's psychopaths. They have manufactured psychopaths because that's the only way you're going to get people to collectively behave in the manner that they've been behaving in order for them to do the things they've been able to do. And then go about their lives like nothing's wrong with them, like everything is just fine. The shit we're doing is just perfectly fine. These are not people who, if they've ever been all right, will ever be all right. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. And time will tell it. Time will tell it. I'm just a guy on a camera somewhere in America saying stuff. But time will tell it. What's happening, House of Sufyan? What's going on, Microwave 549? What's going on, So Shantastic? What's happening with you? Ahmed said, I have 4 children. My youngest was born 9 months ago in the middle of the war. His name is Naeem. You can view my profile. Thank you for your time. Blessings upon you and your family, Ahmed. It is ridiculous what's going on. They won't get done what they think they're going to get done. It's not going to happen. The House of Sufyan said this is all to hide the Epstein files. No, it's not just to hide the Epstein. Not just to hide the Epstein files. Those Epstein files are a representation of things that have happened. They're trying to protect what is happening. Because to open that up in a way that exposes the means, the situations, the systems, the collaborators would be not just to reveal what took place with that particular individual, which was vast, but what takes place in real time, like right now, what's happening right now, what they're doing right fucking now. People tend to have these mentalities where they think that all that can be happening or all that can be behind a certain thing is what is apparent to the eye. In my experience, it is more often not that. It is more often what is hardly ever, if ever, revealed to the general public. The real motivations and drives behind things. No matter how bad or embarrassing the perceived motivations and reasons behind some of the terrible things that have happened historically in this world and this country was part of and so forth. There's deeper, more harsh truths that sit in the dark, and only people who are willing to actually direct their time and attention towards figuring those things out or finding those things out are ever going to know those things. Most people will never know the actual truth. Like they showed a video of Kennedy being killed. In the video, you can see the driver turn around and shoot under his arm and shoot dude, give him the coup de grace. In the video. people don't see it because they're told this is the narrative, and that what they're being told is a lot easier for them to wrap their minds around. I don't know, based on intellectual or experiential capacity, or it's just easier to believe that things are not as bad as they have always been. I don't know which it is. Human beings are very interesting to watch. They truly are. If you're an awakened person, if you're a aware person, human beings are very, very, very interesting to watch, man. You know, seriously. Crenshaw 981, I see you. You know, House of Super said this is all to Javier Epstein files. Oh yeah, I read that. So it's like there's way more to it than that, man. Way more to it than that. To say that Tri-State Hustler, NYC via CT, boy, that how long did it take you to come up with that? And how long did it take you to like get really like when you meet people? What do you say? Yeah, my shit is TRI underscore state underscore hustle NYC. Like, do you really go through all that? You gotta have to.
You just say it, and then you be like, yo, it's underscores after trying state.
Oh, okay.
Yo, Tri-State Hustler, son. Yo, it's try underscores under the try in the state, B. You know me? Like, you gotta, now you gotta put the sauce on it, B. You know, I was just in the town, son, so I know all the lingo, son, so I'm tapped in, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's what it is. That's what's happening.
Bridgeport. Nigga said he's in Bridgeport.
That's what happened. Yeah, I know. We've talked before. We built on him before. He knows that I was up in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
Back when it was nasty. I don't know how it is now, but it was nasty back then.
It's nice. It's nice
houses. Yeah, it's nasty back then. Yes, I do. He said you got history in Bridgeport. Yes, I do. I do indeed. Bridgeport was it's funny how some place could be so close to New York, and you can see how the New York influence is affecting the place, but it can be so far off at the same time.
Yes.
Right? Bridgeport is not that far from New York, but it may as well like be another state, bro. Like,
I mean, it is. Connecticut is another state.
I'm talking about like a state that is like, a day's drive away.
But I mean, shit, if you from the city, if you went
all
from
the panic.
boroughs, if you from one of the 5 boroughs, and a nigga from Elmira, New York, you like this nigga from upstate, like anywhere outside. Nigga from Yonkers is like this nigga from Yonkers, like you still from like they just start. They didn't get their credibility to DMX and the Locks, but other than that, it's still like. Y'all niggas grew up in houses and shit. Y'all got yards and stuff. And it's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that just goes to show you how little thought people put into the things they believe, which is a major problem. That's one of the major motivators for me always encouraging people to think critically. Because as I've said before, thinking critically is merely thinking about what you think about. Most people don't think about what they think about. They just think a thought, become attached to that thought, and model their perspectives, their opinions, their ideas, and their behaviors on the thought that they have. But they rarely ever think about the validity of the thought, whether the thought has any basis in reality of any kind. They just, especially when they're in a place where they're surrounded by other people who have a similar process and similar concepts in terms of their thoughts. So that's just reinforcement. It never occurs to most people to think about the quality of the company. It's me and these 1,000 other people, and we all think and believe the same thing. But there's no assessment of the individuals who comprise the group. It's just the group and the size of the group. But it's like if you looked at each individual or just took 10 random people, you'd be like, wait a minute, nobody should want these motherfuckers to be backing them. Nobody should want these motherfuckers to be like they're cheering section. Like, yeah, we think what he thinks or what she thinks is real shit. It's like these motherfuckers they're fucking idiots. You know what I mean? But she's crazy. Yonkers was wild. He said Yonkers. House Super said Yonkers was wild also. I mean, I used to be in Yonkers. What's up, PJ Mayhem? I used to be in Yonkers back in the latter part of the 70s. Right. One of the bosses of my family,
70s.
My older brother Bernard. That's Bernard right there. It's him in Hawaii.
Nigga said the 70s.
That's his former wife, Linda, who gave hell. They have a son called Bernard Jr. That's Lauren's father, as you know. And as you can tell, he looked just like him. And so she became a state trooper after she got the fuck away from Bernard. But so Bernard, he used to live up there in Yonkers. In fact, he was living right down the hall from David Berkowitz. David Berkowitz is the son of Sam Killer, 44 caliber killer. So I used to see David Berkowitz. He was a very demure guy, right? He was like a postman or something like that. And he had this little dog, like a small French poodle. And I used to see him when he, I always like dogs. So I used to see him when he would be on the way to the pool, and he'd be, he had the pool and bill and all that. And he would, he just act like a normal person. But at nighttime, he was going out and blowing people's brains out, especially couples. So you had to think about couples, But, so that's when I met, through my stepbrother, Dewan, or Sean. Dewan's the younger one. That's when I met Earl. So Sean and DMX. Sean and Earl used to run around together.
You're crazy. Talk about you're crazy. You're crazy.
Why that?
The way you just threw like you was just you just pet the son of Sam dog, and he's just walking around, and then
New York.
Like you just kept the story going. Like that's a whole what the hell? Nigga, like, the comments said, "Wow." I'm like, nigga, like what? Like, wait, you just so Earl, like, nigga, like he ain't say what? Like, so when that was going on, did grandma say that? Hey, make sure you got your shit on you. I mean, you already had your shit. Like, what was the alert like with something like that?
No, it was just, you got to realize the contrast between coming from what we came from and that, right? Bernard, me, my mother, we're from 115th Street, 116th Street. That's what we're from, right? My mother was born in 37 in Harlem, 115th Street, in my block. My father was born around the same time in my block. Bernard was born 15 years later in my block. We grew up in an environment that was going cold fucking crazy. Like, you got to look at, and Al Prophet did, shout out to Al Prophet. If you're not following American Dope on YouTube, you need to. And Al Prophet did like a little mini doc like he does, and he talked about how Harlem during the early part of the 70s had the highest murder rate per capita. It was the most dangerous place ever, anywhere in America during that time. Like, even now, other places, the worst places are not as dangerous now as Harlem was then. You understand? So when you grow up in that environment, as my parents did, as those who came, like Bernard came between my generation and my parents' generation, right? Bernard, Steve, Gail, Bootsy, Frankie, I mean, all of them, they came, between that, right? So I was born in the 60s. They were born in the 50s, late 40s. My mother was born in the latter part of the 30s, so they existed throughout all of that, and I was born right into that. I was born right into the condition that gave way to them. You know what I mean? So they were accustomed to violence, volatility, struggle, hardship, addiction, the worst circumstances there could be. And there was a lot of fucking violence, right? So when you move to Connecticut, or Yonkers rather, or, even, to the Grand Concourse, you know what I mean? In the shadow of the Yankee Stadium and the Supreme Court, it's a whole other fucking world. A whole other fucking world, man. It's like going from Gaza to, Buckhead or something. It's completely fucking different. So going to Yonkers and meeting kids, like Earl. Like, I knew little kids like Earl from Harlem, and there's a kid named Pop. I don't know if Pop is even still alive now. Pop is one of and there were many very unfortunate kids whose people fell on the wrong side of the bag, right? When I say the wrong side of the bag, I'm talking about the dope bag, for y'all don't understand, the heroin bag. So you are either on one side of it or the other, right? So if you're on the one side, that means it's on top of you. You're a victim of it. If you're on the other, that means you're on top of it, and you're still a fucking victim of it. But the quality of your life experience is a lot more desirable, right? So Pop's people were born underneath the bag. So Pop, at a very early age, had no structure. I guess he used to sleep on roofs and abandoned buildings and whatever, but Pop was always dirty. Very, very, very dirty. But he was crafty, and he had what you call social intelligence. So at a very young age, he was pretty savvy, but this is not like the crack era. You didn't have average motherfuckers just getting on and getting into drugs and all that. It didn't matter. So you had to come through somebody, period. Remember, verified by somebody's qualified in order to be certified. That was the rule, period. So the fact that he was struggling, and people knew he was struggling, people knew they were serving his people, whether his mother or father or whoever it was that was supposed to be responsible for him. People knew they were serving his people. People knew he wasn't being taken care of, whatever. So the neighborhood took care of him. The neighborhood, trying to encourage him to go to school or buying clothes, whatever, this and the other, include him in the different things that kids like myself were doing, whether it was, they would bring like these carnivals to the neighborhood, and they'd block off the street. It used to be 15th Street they would do. They used to do 16th Street too, but 16th Street is like mad big. It's like 2 lanes going east to west, and it's mad big. 15th Street and 14th Street are one-way streets. 15th Street goes east to west, 14th Street goes west to east. And so they would block the streets off, and they would put they used to bring like pools, like a giant pool, above ground pool. And they would bring a pool right to the neighborhood on the back of a truck, and trampolines and all kinds of games and stuff like that. So, when they would bring those kinds of things through, and the drug dealers pay for these things. When those kinds of things came through, kids like Pop would be included and make sure they were able to enjoy something fun, even though they didn't have anything or whatever. And so the kind of kid that Earl was, he might have been somewhat of an oddity up there where he was, because Yonkers obviously did not have the degree of socioeconomic degradation that Harlem did. No place did. No place. So there weren't as many instances of him in that time. You're talking about the latter part of the 70s, right? Earl was probably, how long has he been gone? 3 years?
Maybe 3, 4 years.
Right. So he died at 50. So Earl was about maybe 5 years younger than me. So when I got there, I was like 11, something like that. Earl might have been like, I guess,
7 or 8, something like that. He was already getting into shit. He had already, in fact, he was on the run from having escaped from a juvenile jail. So that's why they were running around like they was running around, robbing and stealing and whatever, because he's a little on the run convict, baby convict, right? So when I met him through Sean, they were just little underfoot niggas running around in the name of those houses that
Mulford.
It was nice. I don't know. It was nice. It was nice. Like I said, it had a pool. I got a picture of your grandmother sitting by the pool over there. I forgot, but it was really nice. It was a bunch of buildings, brownish, reddish brown bricks. I remember, playground. It was nice. You're talking about 76, something like that. 77. It was nice. It was nice, especially compared to what New York was looking like, especially compared to what Harlem and shit was looking like. Like, forget about it. No, you if you come from every other building is abandoned, and you go somewhere where the streets are clean, there's like no trash on the ground. You're like, yo, this is a whole other fucking world, and that's how it was. So Earl was just one of those, at that time, rare kids who was dealing with some familial circumstances that made his life unstable. That was a norm where I come from. So wasn't paying him no attention. He was a little thief. You know what I mean? He was a little bummy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, it's a little crazy Earl. It's called Crazy Earl. And yeah, and as far as David Berkowitz is concerned, he was just some little demure-looking little white man. Like, nothing you would pay any attention to. If it weren't for the dog, I wouldn't have remembered him. And of course, when the paper came out and they showed his picture, I was like, oh, snap, that's the man with the dog. And it was just a normal kind of New York thing. Like, New York, living in New York, growing up in New York during that time, it was such a crazy fucking thing, man. Like, y'all think y'all saw something in the 80s or the 90s. You didn't. You really didn't. You really didn't. Like, some of y'all might remember the Ball Busters or the Cigar Mob. Are you familiar with those? Sorry? Okay, so this is before your time. On the back end of my adolescence. But because I moved with adults in an adult world, I wasn't even hip to them. I never came across them, never saw them, whatever. I used to hear kids talking about it in school, in high school. But, when school was over for the day, I would just, head on down to the spot. I got to open up. You know what I'm saying? I got heroin to sell. I got cocaine to cook up. You know what I'm saying? I'm not paying attention to what the kids are doing at school. I didn't go to basketball games and, all that kind of shit. I didn't participate in none of that type of shit. I wasn't part of none of that at all. Anybody who went to school with me will tell you, I was not part of any of that. I was, somebody who came and went, and, that was pretty much it. Everybody knew me because of the way that I lived. Everybody knew me because of how I moved, the fact that I moved like an adult, the fact that I was wearing adult clothes, I got on fur coats and gator shoes and all type of shit and ballies and leather suits and every day of the fucking week. Like, I was dressing like Eddie fucking Murphy. So they knew me for that, the jewelry, they knew me for like the kid who got the shit, right? And who was aggressive and who will beat the shit out of you, but they didn't, like, very few people really fucking knew me. Very few. Because we didn't have anything in common. Except that we happened to be on the same age or whatever. But other than that, there were no commonalities. So when they would talk about these ball busters, they came through and all that, whatever, that was like, I'd be like, I don't understand why. Shoot the motherfuckers. What's wrong with y'all? Just shoot them. Like, you shoot 2 or 3 of these motherfuckers, they start coming around. I didn't understand it. But those kinds of groups were terrorizing in like, I guess like the mid 80s or whatever. But they were nothing compared to the motherfuckers that was running around at 74, 75, 76, 77. There was nothing compared to them. There's nothing compared to the, you know, motherfuckers walking around with ripped jeans and denim vests on that said Savage Nomads or Savage Skulls on the motherfucking back, and they got bats and sticks with nails in it and wrapped with barbed wire and chains and shit. Smelling like they fucking bathed in weeks, you know what I mean? Or the groups of motherfuckers running around on 42nd Street in Times Square, it'd be like 30 motherfuckers running around trying to take people's chains, snatch people's chains, and all type of crazy shit. Like, and there was no, you know, the police rolling up and all that, whatever that. The police will get there after everything is done. There ain't no police protection, motherfucker. You have to protect yourself. It was a really wild, chaotic, cowboy-like world. So, you know, when I started moving around in other places, none of them places, they couldn't even compare. They couldn't even fucking compare. Not at all. Like being in Father Panic up in Bridgeport. Father Panic was fucking crazy. But it was mostly due to the fact that you had a bunch of working class poor squares emulating lyrics from rappers, doing what they think you're supposed to do based upon what rappers say in rap songs. Which, that's what made it bad. What made it bad, you had a bunch of stupid people running around doing stupid shit. That's what made it bad. It wasn't like these motherfuckers were like organized, focused fucking criminals. It kind of was like I think I'd use this as an analogy in the last part of my fourth book, the 50 Critical Quotes, which is available on my site, themindplugacademy.com, along with Raised by Wolves, my autobiography, and my third book, Old Gangsters and Young Guns, right, which is an anthology of the top 10 stories that I did in Don Demon magazine. So in 50 Critical Quotes, at the end, I talk about how it kind of comes off of the conversation I had so many times with people who used to be like, I'd be in DC and motherfuckers be like, yo, with Don D, be like, yo, you ain't put Rayful in your magazine. Like, my shit is not official because I didn't put, you know, one of their more pronounced drug dealers in it. And I'd be like, yeah, well, it's not that I don't know who he is. I used to hustle here. I know exactly who Rayful is. I was here in '86. I know who he is. Or else I know what he did too. And they were like, well, I'm saying, like, he did this, he had that. I said, yeah, he told. Yeah, but he had this and he had that and he bought this. I said, yeah, but he told. When it all was said and done, he showed his true self. Not to say that he wasn't kind, because he obviously, people thought of him as kind, beneficent, giving, you know. I never heard anybody say anything really bad about him, even back in the days when he was running around. But the bottom line is, as it relates to the lifestyle, he betrayed the lifestyle. Did he have a good reason? In the lifestyle, there is no good reason. He was going to lock my mother up. Well, she was on the motherfucking phone talking to the white girl, and she incriminated herself by indicating that she was aware of what was going on. So, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? You stand next to somebody who's juggling shit. What you going to do? Explain to the shit that you're not the one juggling it? You just standing next to the juggler? Shit don't give a fuck. It's going to come down on whoever's available. So when people would ask me about these people, and there was one of those kinds of guys in every state, somebody who would make all this noise, or this big name, but shit hit the fan, they told. And at the end of the day, that is the truth of who they are. They might have looked out for people. They might have paid people's bills, gave people experiences they never would have had access to, whatever have you. And those people appreciated those things. But at the end of the day, you can't rate a man on how he handles his wins. You have to really rate him on how he handles his losses. And the way that these individuals handled their losses told the truth about them. You know? So I would tell cats all the time, like, these stories, it's important that they be told from a realistic perspective. And it's important that people who don't meet the criteria that has been established for being held at a high regard in these types of stories, those people that break that betray that, should not be saddled upside those people who handled everything that came with it, the good and the bad, right? And so that was an important thing. I said, but it's also important for y'all to know that they didn't do anything anybody else didn't do. All the stories are the same. At their basis, all the stories are the same. Poor guy comes up through struggle. He gets involved in street life, either by happenstance or circumstance. He struggles, builds up, makes the right connection, makes a couple of right moves. Next thing you know, he is cash rich. And of course, with cash rich comes influence and control and all that kind of stuff, especially when you're around a bunch of poor people. So, and then inevitably, whatever it is that he knew or understood that got him to the point where he was able to achieve a level of acquisition that most of the people in his environment had not, whether they tried to be in the street or not, he eventually comes to a point where he is faced with choices in his experience that are beyond his knowledge base. He just does not know what to do here. So at that point, he starts making poor choices. He starts making lesser choices. And all of the smart shit he has done is now being undone by all of the ignorant shit he's doing now, because he doesn't know what to do next. See, a nigga know how to get up off their ass. A nigga might even know how to get up off their ass in a hole and then get up out the hole, because they were born to struggle. Struggle is something they're very familiar with. They know how to struggle. It's at the point at which they reach no struggle. There is no struggle. So everything that used to motivate them, used to drive them, used to make them think more deeply about their choices, those things have been removed, because they've always been motivated by struggle, by angst, by anxiety and concern. And now that's gone, because they got more than they ever imagined they would have. Now there's another level of cognition, thinking, that needs to be employed. It might have worked from the floor to here, but now you're in the sky, and you need to get from here, just like you needed to get from the ground, from the floor to here. Now you got to get from here up, because if you don't, then there's only one other choice, and it ain't stay here. Go down. You got the choice. You either keep rising, or you peak, and then you start going down. In the street, that happens because cats run into a wall of ignorance. I don't know what to do from here. I've never been a nigga with 3, 4, 500,000 and already bought everything I could think to buy. I've never been that. I've never had, $1 million. I've never seen it. I don't. So now that I have it, I don't know what the fuck to do. I want to reduce myself back to a condition that's more familiar. It's an unconscious thought, but it is a powerful thought. I want to reduce myself back to a point where I am more confident, which means I have to go back to those points of struggle between the ground and here. Because above that, I have no idea what to do. I don't feel as confident. I don't feel as powerful, because I don't know what to do. So they sabotage themselves and bring themselves back down. And they go through that cycle a couple of times before they ultimately end up going to fucking prison, right? So that's what happens. You come up, you blow up, you go up and down, and then you go to prison. That's everybody's story. Virtually everybody's story. Virtually. It doesn't happen to be my story, but only because I recognize that pattern. That's what made me say, I'm changing the ending on mine. And I did not know whether I was changing it in time to make any difference. But I was willing to take that chance and, at the very least, be able to say, well, at least they can't say they stopped me. eyes stopped me, right? But typically that is the case. That is the story. Poor, broke, struggling, desperate, drugs, crime, violence, money, success, troubles, success, problems, success, jail. That's the story. I said, so in telling this story, each and every time with a different person's name, place, face, I'm trying to deliver one most important thing, that this pattern repeats itself. And the pattern is, to put it in the simplest terms, which is what I attempted to do in 50 critical quotes. I did a story about a big party at a pool, right? It's a huge party at a pool. And everybody's there. Everybody in the neighborhood, all the neighborhood niggas and bitches, everybody's there. Everybody got on their best swimwear. Balenciaga this, Gucci that, Louis this, MCM that, you know, Isaac Mizrahi that, this and all kinds of shit, right? Everybody got on their favorite sunglasses, all their, you know, poolside accoutrements. And everybody's milling and talking and, oh, that one, look what that one's wearing, that one's got, whatever. Everybody's too cool, too fly to be getting, you know, to be swimming. So nobody's swimming. So in comes the big nigga. And he comes in, he got his entourage with him, and they got on shirts, and all their shirts say I'm a boss and all this other shit, right? So they come in and everybody's on, and oh look, they got the cabanas over there, and they just brought 50 bottles, 100 bottles and all that, whatever. They blowing, they smell it, it's in the air, this, that, and the other. So finally, after, you know, doing a couple of performances and holding bottles in the air and all that, whatever for the crowd, the boss decides it's time for him to show everybody, you know, why he's the shit. So he walks over towards the diving boards. And there's always 3 diving boards. There's the one that's at deck level. Then there's the next one that's like maybe 10, 5, 7 feet above that. Then there's the one that's all the way up. So it's like, you know, probably 60 feet out the water, right? Above the pool. So he walks over, and as he's walking towards the diving boards, people are going, yo, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you about to do? What are you doing? Yo, you gonna dive? Oh shit, they're about to dive. So you about to dive. You're about to do a little dive or something. But then he goes past the first board. Goes, yo, he going to the next, he going to the highest joint. Yo, son is wild. Yo, he that nigga. He dive off that shit. He that nigga. I'm not fucking with that shit like that. But then he keeps climbing the ladder. Oh, yo, this nigga bugging. He going to the top, my nigga. That nigga going all the way to the top. And he gets up there. He's looking around, making sure everybody see him. You know, he even got his chains on. You know what I mean? Because fuck it. But then he goes out on the board, and he starts bouncing and shit, bouncing and bouncing. Motherfuckers just watching him, yo, this nigga be doing everything, yo, that nigga be making movies, yo, for real. And then he finally takes that final bounce, and he pop off, and the first thing he does is an undertuck. Then he turns to an Arabian, and a twist, then a half summy, then a motherfucking jackknife, then a swan. And they're like, yo, oh shit, yo, I ain't never seen that before. That nigga just did a double. Oh my God, yo, he flipped and twisted. Oh, that nigga did shit. And then, boom. There's no water in the pool, people. There is no water in the fucking pool. That's why nobody's swimming. Because as simple as they might be, they know better than to be getting in a pool to swim that has no water in it. That's why your average person doesn't get involved in the fucking streets. Because all they see is an empty fucking pool. You know, fuck, how many bodies is in the bottom of that motherfucker splashed and smashed all over the fucking place? There's no water in the motherfucking pool. So people are oohing and on, and yo, that was crazy, yo, remember that time when he got right there, he did the tuck and he did the flip and he did the swan right there, yo, I was like, yo, he gonna be fucked up, boy, he gonna get fucked up, yo, that shit was mean, it was fly, yo, he was the shit, yo, my favorite part was when he did the double twist. This nigga discombobulated and splattered in the bottom of this pool. They're talking about the dive, and they talk about the walk up to the dive. And how it felt to see him go up that ladder in anticipation of the dive. That nigga gonna really jump off that shit. He gonna come back down. He just gonna go up there and look at everybody. Everybody see him. He ain't that stupid. He's that stupid. He's that stupid. He's that desperate for attention, that desperate for validation, that desperate for fucking, a pat on the back. That, yeah. He could see there ain't no one in the pool either. But he's more motivated by a need to be told that he's the shit than to be alive or free. This is what has been ailing us as a collective coming out of these hoods. More so from where all the fuck shit started, which was Black Central Harlem. Everybody came from the South, brother. They went to fucking Harlem. First, they might have, at some point, got out to Brooklyn and Queens, but you'll know that a lot of the people who were out in Brooklyn and Queens were not American, black people. Those are West Indians. Those people from the so-called Caribbean. Caribbean means cannibal, so I don't really use that. But that came later. A little bit in the 70s, mostly in the 80s and mid-80s, and then on after that. But black people coming from parts of the country here came to Harlem. And because they were being subjected to the greatest degrees of white supremacist systems, they suffered tremendously, right? And, of course, a great deal of struggle and effort came out of that suffering. Crime came out of that suffering. Desperation, mindlessness came out of that suffering. So when all of these other situations we had no control of came into place, the numbers was us, right? But the heroin, the drugs and shit, that was not us. That was not us. Those were people outside of us. It's just that our circumstances were prime for that type of infiltration. You had people who were suffering. Alcohol was running rampant. People were suffering. People were anxious. People who were afraid. People who were desperate. People who were hopeless. And escape is always an attractive thing to people who are suffering. So what started out as like a little escapism on the weekends, shoot a little dope, hang out with your friends, nod out, and act a fool, and then, get ready to go back to your normal life on the weekends. They call it a chippy. Niggas had a weekend chippy, little something they did on the weekends and shit, but then you get back to the normal once the weekend was over. So those chippies end up turning into, or the monkey on your back, end up turning to full-grown gorillas. And from that, all these other things that have become so-called cultural components of being an inner city melanated person, aka a nigga from the hood, came into being. So all of the materialism, because with that money, with that heroin, a lot of money came. And with that money, a lot of purchasing and buying and sporting came. But no healing came. No improvement came. Just escapism came. And escapism became an art. It became a culture, something you aspired to. You didn't aspire to escape. You aspired to escapism. You aspire to live in such a way as to ignore the actual circumstances of your existence. And that became the culture. And that's what gave way to all the priorities and all the ideas that end up spreading out to Yonkers and Connecticut and all these other fucking places or whatever. couldn't have done it without rap music and rap music being weaponized. But that's where all this shit came from. So I've shared all this to say this. The reason that those kinds of things, I say the kinds of things that I do about my life experiences in such a casual way, because in comparison to what I come from, none of that shit means a fucking thing. It doesn't even register, bro. Doesn't even fucking register. So somebody say, yo, I remember that time you walked up on that dude and you were standing there talking to him, then all of a sudden he just burst into flames. And nobody ever knew why or how that happened. And you the only one that wasn't surprised. And he went running off and trying to get, and you were just standing there and you just looked at him and you turned around and walked away. You set him on fire somehow, didn't you? And I'm like, I don't know, probably, maybe. You don't remember that? No, because for you, that was this day that this happened. For me, that was Tuesday. Yeah? So it's about perspective, is my point. You know? Being exposed to a young, dirty kid who comes from some very fucked up circumstances at home that ultimately takes that pain and suffering and turns it into, for a period of time, some creative angst, the likes of which had not been seen in a very long time, DMX, or being in the common presence of somebody who achieves a certain level of absolute infamy because he randomly picks people to just shoot to death with a fucking 44. It's like Tuesday, you know? This is the kind of thing that makes certain people more serious than other people. It's not that they're meaner, tougher per se, or unstable, crazy, or whatever. It's that they've seen things, and the way that they have processed those things makes them have, I guess, a more realistic perspective on what reality is and how to operate within that reality than most people have. Most people are operating on false premises because they prefer false premises. False premises makes it easier for them to manage their existence. So they like false premises. That's why they don't want to hear truth. Truth is an imposition on their preferred perspectives or preferred reality. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to believe what they've made up in their mind to be the truth so that they can manage existence. You start burdening them with things that they've never thought about or hadn't been aware of before, and you make them have to do something they don't want to fucking do, which is think. So, yeah. It's the kind of things that just really make me very thankful for my peace. I'm very thankful to be surrounded by trees and not people, for real. You know, I mean, you know, I obviously not everybody can, but not everybody will aspire to do the things necessary to put themselves in that position or will ever actually have an appreciation for that. A lot of people who will never have appreciation for that. I've been telling people for decades, get the fuck out of New York, at least for a little while. Go see what else is out there. I've been telling people that. You know, I tried to get your mother to move to Atlanta. Shit, like 1998 or something.
I'm working on it, man. We just looked at some houses. She gonna be coming down here like 2 weeks, so we can go check it out.
Yeah, I've been telling her for years, man. Man, she could have had the house down there, the one I brought in 2020. She could have had that. You know what I mean? 5.5 acres, you know, and what was it again? What was it? off of 20. It's up there by
Not far from Conyers, but before Conyers.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you know, I don't know. People can get so comfortable, even under the worst of circumstances, which is really crazy. Like a person could, and we all do it. You know, like I needed to call the bank 2 days ago about some overdraft charge that ain't supposed to be there. And it just didn't feel like it. It doesn't fucking feel like it. It doesn't fucking feel like it, bro. It just don't feel like taking that 5-10 minutes probably to talk to my banker. It's a business account, so I got a banker. So it's like, hey, this is what's happening, whatever. Because it's some type of a fucking fraud of some kind or some dumb shit. But it's like we all go through things where we know what we should do and we don't do it. Management, self-management, it's attention management, you know, energy management. And sometimes you just feel like you gotta take a knee, and sometimes you just gotta pick your battles. In the small one. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know how our people are going to adjust and adapt to the things that they aren't even aware of are happening right now. Happening right now. There are things that have been put into place that will inevitably, undoubtedly, and unavoidably have negative impacts on the daily existence of even the most simple and unassimilated nigga. I don't give a fuck how stupid you are. I don't give a fuck how removed from what's going on you are. I don't give a fuck how preoccupied with other people's business you are. It's going to be so fucking much of an impact that even your dumb ass is going to have to pay attention to something other than, Kodak Black, that nigga looking at 30 years. You know, they found him last November. They found him with a bag with a gun and some Molly, some ecstasy, and you know, fucking some weed, and you know, he didn't have a cannabis card, so he looking at 30 years, and it's like, yo, this is a motherfucker that got pardoned by the president. How much of your time and attention are you going to give to the antics of these stupid fucking people? Like, how much of your time and attention are you going to give to people who continuously demonstrate how to blow opportunities that you will probably never fucking have? This is a perfect example, I think, of what I was talking about earlier when I said that a motherfucker gets off the ground and gets to a certain point and just doesn't know what to do at that point. All they can think of is ways to go back to that point, that's condition that they were familiar. I know how to struggle. I don't know how to just be rich and be progressive. I only know how to struggle. And they spend a lot of time and a lot of money, apparently, trying to maintain the appearance of struggle, even though you're living in an 11-room, you know, 7,000 square foot house in some exclusive neighborhood, but you want to come outside and pretend that you're still struggling. These kinds of things, they play out in the street and anywhere else that people who are unaccustomed to having things suddenly get things and get to a point of having things that is beyond their understanding of what a person with this level of having things is supposed to do next. And it ain't the same thing that the person that they were prior to having this many things used to do. That person, there's no need for that person anymore. The person you used to be when you was in the hole on your ass and you struggled out and climbed up out that hole only to find yourself on the ground on your ass, and then you got up off your ass and you struggled and you climbed up off the ground and got yourself into a high rise, got yourself to a penthouse, and now all you can do is look out over the balcony thinking, I could make it if I jump back down there, because I know what to do down there. You might not be thinking it consciously, but remember, your subconscious is responsible for 96 to 98% of what you do. conscious mind is only responsible for 2 to 4% of what you do. So whatever is happening beneath the conscious level, that is what's going to determine the direction and circumstances of your life. It's that. And that's my piece. It's been an hour and 28 seconds and not a second more, my son. I love you.
Love you too. Shout out to my son. He completed his last day of high school.
Congratulations to my grandson. And he accepted the full scholarship, academic and athletic scholarship to
Fort
TSU.
Valley. Fort Valley.
Valley?
Yeah.
Fort Valley. Where's Fort Valley?
In Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Excellent. Okay, cool. All right. So that is, see, that's what the fuck it's about. And you can't tell me that if I hadn't done the things that I did when I did, that my grandson would be having the same trajectory. There's no way to separate who I was and the choices I made and how those choices impacted your circumstances and thus the choices you made and how that ultimately impacted or contributed to the impact that is him. You know, one thing makes all the difference. It's a collective of things that make the difference. And if it weren't for my mother being the person that she was, then the likelihood of him being, and his cousins, and all my other children's children, they're all academically fucking brilliant. They're all A+ students, all of them, every fucking one of them. I got no bums, no deadheads, no nifnods, no dweebs. These are all excellent fucking outcomes. And there's no way you can remove them from the trajectory of the generations before them. If I hadn't made the decision that I made at the point that I made it, then you would have not likely been able to make the decisions that you made or been inclined to, if you had even survived. If I had even survived. I mean, I had y'all pretty young, right? But if I weren't around, then I couldn't have been an influence. If I could influence you, you couldn't influence him, right? And your brothers and sisters wouldn't be able to influence their children, you know? So, yeah, I applaud us all. I applaud my grandfather I never met, you know, because within us resonate their experiences, you know, what they've learned, what they've lost, what they have been through. It's in our genetics, it's in our DNA. That's not a belief. That's been scientifically quantified. That is how it works, you know. So he carries the genetic memory of people that he's never met. And they contributed to the kind of person that he is and the kinds of choices that he makes. Those who we haven't met and those who we have met, you know. Just like his son and daughters will one day be impacted by everything that transpired before them, by people they haven't met. They don't even exist yet. But their path is already set to some degree. And it's a good path. So I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud of him. Very much so. Very much so. So on that note, yeah, make sure y'all check us out. You know, you've just experienced another episode of the We Pop and Fun talk show, #1 father-son talk show in the world. And I am your co-host, Cavario H, aka the Mind Plug, aka the Last Laugher.
And I'm comedian Tymillz. You can find us on Blazin420 at WPAM radio and
on iHeart.
on iHeart radio. And you can find us in future and watch past episodes on YouTube at Comedian Tymillz and at Cavario, the Mind Plug.
That's correct. Appreciate you. And for the rest of y'all, man, remember to think critically so you can live wonderfully. Peace.
Peace.